Hey everyone, it's Dana. Today I want to show you how to do the mock honeycomb stitch on your knitting loom. It's a really pretty stitch, would look great on a hat or a cowl or a blanket, all sorts of ideas. You do need to know how to do my hack for slip working yarn in front. So go back to YouTube, take a look at that first because that is necessary because these are slip stitches. And it's a slip working yarn in front. And the hack makes that so simple to do. Alright, this one is done using E-wrap knit stitches. The one on my loom that I'm going to show you is done using U-knit stitches, the more traditional knit stitch. So it just makes the fabric a little tighter than this one, but it's just a matter of personal preference, whatever you want to use. Alright, let's get started. I have knit several repeats of the pattern just to give you a feel, but for the purposes of learning the honeycomb stitch, we're going to pretend like I just cast on, and we'll go from row 1 there. Now I'm left-handed, so I cast on from left to right. If you're right-handed and cast on from right to left, no worries. It works exactly the same way regardless if you're left-handed or right-handed. The pattern calls for knitting in multiples of 4 stitches plus 1. And that's 4 stitches plus 1 if you're knitting a flat panel. If you are knitting in the round, going the whole way around, you need multiples of 4. But for a flat panel, we're knitting multiples of 4 stitches plus 1, so I have cast on 21. 4 times 5 is 20, so that's my multiple of 4, plus 1 is 21. Alright, row 1 calls for U-knitting every peg going back. Okay, so row 1 and every odd numbered row, so rows 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11 will all be just a simple U-knit stitch coming back. Okay, so our first row says to knit 3, so simply knit 3, 3, and then it says slip 3 working yarn in front. So that means 3 pegs. I'm going to slip the working yarn in front. There's 1, 2, 3, knit 1, and again we're just going to repeat the slip 3, knit 1. So 1, 2, 3, and knit 1, and again that's where you need to go back and see my video on the hack for slip working yarn in front to understand what I'm doing there. 2, slip 3, knit 1, slip 1, slip 2, slip 3, knit 1, and then the last 2 stitches you're also supposed to knit. Okay, so that was row 2. Now row 3, it's just U-knit the whole way back. I like to try and keep my stitches loose. If you find that you're knitting way too tight and having a hard time getting stitches up over, then you might want to consider using the E-wrap. It still makes a really pretty pattern. So you can, again, You can either U-knit or traditional knit the whole pattern, or you can substitute that out and do an E-wrap knit stitch. Either one looks really pretty. Okay, so that was row 3. Row 4 is the same thing. We're going to knit 3, and then we start our repeats of slip 3, working yarn in front, 1, 2, 3, knit 1, and repeat, slip 3, oops, I missed, 2, 3, and knit 1, and slip 3, and knit 1, slip 3, and knit 1, and then the last 2 stitches are knit as well. Okay, next row going back is U-knit. Okay. All right, this row I'm going to introduce you to pick up loose strands. So this row tells us to knit 4. So we knit 1, 2, 3, 4, and here's our new term, pick up loose strands and knit 1. So let's see if I can show you here. There are my 2 strands. Can you see that? These are my 2 strands where we slipped the working yarn in front off of 3 pegs for those 2 rows. Now I need to pick those 2 strands up, put them back on the peg, and knit. So here's how we do that. So let's see, I knit 3, 1, 2, 3. So the 4th peg is where I'm going to, excuse me, I knit 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. My 5th peg is where I'm going to pick up loose strands. So to do that, you take the stitch off of that peg, hold it in your hand. You got to reach down in, I don't know if I can show you this very well on the camera, but you can see my 2 loose strands floating there. I'm going to grab those, and you can either grab them one at a time, and neither one of them wants to be grabbed right now. It's hard to do this with a camera in front of you. You're going to grab those 2 loose strands and put them back on the peg. There's the second one. Okay, so I've got my 2 loose strands right there. They had been, whoops, and you see I split the yarn there, so I need to go back and pick up the full thing without dropping my stitch. Let's see, there's loose strand 1. This is the one that I had split the yarn, doggone it. Let's see if I can get it all. There we go. This is much easier for not trying to do it with a camera in front of you. So there's my 2 loose strands that I've picked up, and I'm going to put my stitch back on the peg. Let's look underneath here. Can you see? So I no longer have the 2 bars going across. I've picked them up and put them back onto the peg. Put my stitch on the peg as well. So that was my pick up loose strands and then knit 1. So I'm going to knit, and I'm going to knit those 3 strands off over 1. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now I knit 3 more. And I'm going to repeat the process of pick up loose strands and knit 1. So again, I take the stitch off of the peg, hold it in my hand. Again, down there are my 2 stitches. See them? I don't know how well if you can see that. Right there are my 2 loose strands. I'm going to grab those 2 loose strands and pull them back up onto my peg. and I find it's just easiest to do one at a time. And it's a whole lot easier to do it if you don't have a camera sitting right here in your way, making it difficult. Okay, so there's my 2 loose strands back up on the pegs, or peg, singular. Okay, and it does look prettier if you keep them in order, like this was the first strand, here's the second strand, and there's my knit stitch. And now I'm going to knit those 3 off, and again, keep them in order. If for some reason you don't keep them in order, when you're all done, you can go back and with your fingers just kind of, you know, put the strands the way you want them. But they look prettier if you have the bottom strand on the bottom and the top strand and not twisted. Okay? So it's pick up loose stitch, knit 1, so now we have to knit 3 more. 1, 2, 3, and again we pick up the loose stitch. I put it on the peg, put my knit stitch back on top, and knit those 3 off. Knit 3, again pick up the loose stitch, loose strands I guess, not stitches, loose strands, and put them back on the pegs. Split my yarn again. There's 1, there's 2, put my stitch back on the peg that I was holding, and now knit all 3 of those off in order. And then we knit 3, let's knit 1, knit 2, knit 3 to the last peg, and then just knit it. Okay, again going back, all we do is U-knit the whole way back. Okay, so that's the first half of our stitch pattern. Once we finish here, okay, the next row says to knit 1, and then we start our repeats of slip 3, knit 1. So we're going to slip 1, working yarn in front, slip 2, working yarn in front, slip 3, working yarn in front, knit 1. Repeat that again, slip 1, working yarn in front, slip 2, working yarn in front, slip 3, working yarn in front, knit 1. Repeat, slip 1, working yarn in front, slip 2, working yarn in front, slip 3, working yarn in front, and knit 1. Repeat, slip 1, working yarn in front, slip 2, working yarn in front, slip 3, working yarn in front, knit 1. Last repeat of slip 1, working yarn in front, slip 2, working yarn in front, slip 3, working yarn in front, and knit. And you knit the whole way back. Alright, the next row, the same as the other, so it's knit 1, and we begin our repeats of slip working yarn 3 times for 3 pegs. So slip working yarn 1, slip 2, in front, slip 3, in front, knit 1, repeat, slip 1 in front, slip 2 in front, slip 3 in front, and you knit, slip 1 in front, slip 2, in front, slip 3, in front, and you knit 1, slip 1, in front, slip 2, in front, slip 3, in front, and you knit 1, slip 1, in front, slip 2, in front, slip 3, in front, and you knit 1. Okay, now we U-knit going back. Alright, our final row of the stitch pattern. It says to knit 2, so we'll knit 2. And then our stitch pattern, the repeats are pick up loose strands, knit 1. So pick up my loose strands here. See them down under there? Pick up my 2 loose strands. Put my stitch back on and then knit those 3 off. So there's my pick up loose strands, knit 1. And now I knit 3. So 1, 2, 3. I repeat it again, pick up my loose strands. Sometimes it's helpful to pull the working fabric away. And grab those babies. Come up here, put my knit stitch back on the peg, and knit those 3 off. So I've picked up the loose strands and knit 1. And now the pattern says to knit 3. So 1, 2, 3. Again, pick up your loose strands. This is much easier when you can actually hold the loom in your lap, for me anyways. So there's my two strands. I'll put the stitch I was holding in my hand back on and knit those 3 off. And you knit 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Again, pick up the loose strands. There's one. They're not cooperating with me right now. There we go. My 2 loose strands are back on the peg. Put my stitch back onto the peg and you knit off. 1. And then you knit 3. So it's 1, 2, 3. And last one, we pick up my loose strands. Put them back onto the peg. There's 1. There's loose strand number 2. Okay, put my stitch back onto the peg. There's my 3 strands, or my 2 strands, my 1 stitch, and knit those babies off. And knit the last 2 pegs. Okay, so those are my 12 rows of the mock honeycomb. Alright, here are my 2 swatches of the mock honeycomb stitch. This swatch here on the left, I did all in E-wraps, and I cast on, for this swatch, I cast on 17 pegs, a multiple of 4 plus 1. This swatch over here, I knit all with a traditional knit stitch, or a U-stitch, a U-knit stitch. And I had cast on 21 pegs for this one. So you can see just a little different look. but still, both are really pretty. Just depends on the look that you want for whatever it is you're knitting.